So yeah, Kaz, I've known you from We Road actually
Yeah.
when we met. Where did we? Japan.
We
Japan.
travelled in Japan, and I had the best time with you. You were the funniest guy, and I can't think of a better guy to host a podcast. You have got the voice for podcasting. So I was really happy that you said I could be here today with you.
Flattered.
I got fond memories. I was even thinking about the chicken burgers and some of the things that we tried that we still miss, even though we didn't necessarily have some of the local food as our favorite. I think we were honest that we still appreciate the McDonald's.
You know, when I was going upstairs, I was thinking, because I remember in Japan there was one time when everyone was waiting for you to finish up at your hotel room because you were like busy combing his hair.
Yeah.
And as I was coming down, I was thinking, I wonder did Kaz comb his hair the way you prepared it?
I always try and keep it tidy, especially for you today. So yeah,
Appreciate
yeah, but yeah, it was great. And you know, like I said, we had a great time. It was really felt really connected to you in Japan and the rest of the group. So
I think
great way to meet people.
With Japan, one of the reasons we connected was because number one, I think is because we were one of the only guys there. It was like a group of all girls, basically.
Yeah.
But also, I think what struck me about you in Japan was you kind of had this persona of like very fun, very like happy and all that, which you do have that. That is you. But also, I remember, I think it was definitely in the first week, you would just randomly like just have like these kinds of moments of like just being profound. Like like you'd be telling me about like my personality and like why it gels well with certain people, or just sharing your observations about other people in the group.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, this guy's like, he's not just like a fun party guy, like he's very observant. And ever since then, like I've always that kind of stuck with me. And then when I found out later on that you were doing personal development, I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because you often meet people who are like, personal development is like just like a hobby or part of my life, but you've made a career out of it. So I guess could you share a bit more about like why that is your career and how you got started there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just funny because I didn't even remember that I did that. So it's funny that you picked up on that, and that I was maybe looking at some of the social dynamics in the group, because I do just genuinely find that interesting. So it will just come up in conversation. But again, I'm always very honest as well. So I'm able to share my observations, and not in a way that I am trying to be any kind of expert. I'm not trying to say you are this person. It's just me saying, I've noticed this and I've noticed that. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's more so, I feel like I'm learning about people. I feel like I'm able to look at social dynamics and be able to see how I can relate to people, make sure everyone's having a good time as well as me, because that's something I thrive off. Even when I'm not working, like that is me. I just want to like understand people. I want to be interested in people. I want to broaden my horizons purely for curiosity. Not because I'm trying to be an expert, not because I'm trying to tell people how to live their lives, but because I'm curious. But that in itself feeds in on my learning about people. So it's almost like I'm not trying to be an expert, but yeah, I am still learning and getting better at understanding people by just being curious and open.
Right.
And that's something I've always lived by. I think, so going to your question, was it about how I got to where I was in personal development?
Why did you choose personal development as a career? And how did you start?
Yeah, I think I stumbled across it through my different career choices. So I was never really sure about what I wanted to do. So there's been a mixture of experiences that have got me towards coaching and developing people. Right. And I think it comes from being intrinsically motivated to want more out of life, but not really knowing how to get it, and not really knowing where to go, and not knowing what the right thing is and what the right thing looks like. So it's like, should I be having more money? Should I just be having fun? Should I be trying to get a prestigious role, or should I be doing a role that I enjoy, or should I be, just being a family man? And there was never really a right or a wrong, and there was never really clarity, because I had such I don't want to use the word dysfunction, because I didn't have a bad upbringing personally. I felt like I was looked after. Okay. I felt like, yes, there was challenges along the way with family, and with, maybe separation in the family, like a lot of families, maybe with being, a Pakistani Asian in a Western society, but yet being very much Westernized. So it's like, where do I fit? So I think there was a lot of experiences which made me feel not confused, but unsure.
Right.
So I was living very much day to day. I was like, okay, I'll just take things as they come. All right, so maybe I fit in with this group. Okay, maybe I don't fit in with this group. Maybe I want to be have this kind of career. Maybe I want to have that kind of career. I also had a very short attention span. So I would start, I remember when I was little, I started karate.
Yes.
And I did it for like 2 or 3 sessions, got bored. And then I'd start another thing and got bored. And then I did the violin in primary school, and I did a performance in front of my whole assembly in primary school. Bear in mind, I must have been, 9 or 10 or something, I think,
Jeez.
roughly.
Wow.
And then I just didn't carry on.
Right.
And I was just, I don't know, I think there's something in my personality as well. So I never had that much surety. And then, going to university, I did a film and media degree because I found film enjoyable. I found TV enjoyable. I don't know if I was necessarily doing it for the right reasons. Like, I don't know if I knew enough about what was going on behind the camera.
Gotcha.
And don't get me wrong, I would never close the door on that industry. I still think I could get into production. I could get into film. And, I've been involved in there's a friend who's produced a feature film in Preston on a low budget. And I was involved in that. So I still use my degree to some extent, but again, I did that degree.
Was there a particular film that got you into that industry, or?
Not a particular film. I think I just had an appreciation for a variety of films. So English films, Bollywood films, indie films.
Wow, okay. Quite variety.
Yeah. And I always liked really good storytelling. And I think it's because it's something I lacked. I wasn't always good at storytelling. So I really liked a deep story that, and I still do like a deep story in a film where you can see people's emotions through through a lot of subtle things. Anyway, I digress. Yes. So I did the film and media degree, but then I got a job at the university in the sports centre.
Right.
Part of the reason why I had that job and other jobs in university was due to my ethos of working hard, making some money on the side, always, keeping yourself busy and productive. And then I kind of fell into that. So then I ended up working in the university sports centre for so many years. I got lots of experience there. I got fitness qualifications. Yes. I used some of my media degree there to do some of their social media content. I then moved into another role, which involved raising aspirations for young people, schools, colleges, communities. Okay. And then that's when I started to touch upon this idea of coaching. So I delivered teaching sessions on anything that was related to higher education in university. So I'd go into these schools or these communities and say, okay, we're going to do a session on this today. So it gives you an idea of what architecture is all about, or what law is all about. And it's trying to inspire young people who might not have that motivation for or have a lot of aspiration for their own careers. Maybe especially young people that were from what we'd considered a premium pupil background. So maybe like those deprived background, those young people that may have come from challenging environments.
Right.
Anyway, so then that got me into the coaching.
Yes.
I did, as part of that job that I did, I managed multiple projects, project management project, and one of the projects we managed was on coaching and mentoring for young people. It was called the Get Ahead scheme, and it was amazing. Wow. I found it so interesting. I found the psychology of inspiring and motivating young people by getting them to learn about their strengths, getting them to learn about themselves, getting them to learn about how to work together in teams and with different dynamics. I found that fascinating, and that's what got me to be like, okay, so there's this, there's coaching out. Coaching's been around for years, but I stumbled across it roughly around the same time that there's a lot of stuff on social media about wellness, help, development, growth. This was like maybe, even though it's been around for years, I feel like it came more into the into the public domain, as we call it, and social media. The limelight, exactly. Like 2000, pre-COVID, and then through COVID, there was a lot of well-being stuff as well, wasn't there?
Yes, that's so fascinating. And some that you mentioned a couple of things that caught my attention, but you said that you like the kind of psychology of being able to motivate young people. And I do see a thread there, like you're someone that's really inquisitive about other people. And again, that was what I saw in you in Japan. Like you're very observant and you pay attention to every tiny detail. But I'm curious, with those young people, why them? Like what was it that motivated you to do coaching as opposed to, for example, be an armchair psychologist or some kind of psychiatrist? Like, why did you want to coach specifically? Yeah, good question. So I guess this goes a little back to the sports and the fitness a little bit, because the sports and the fitness, you see a lot of people that come into the gym and they come away with a smile on their face. They come and they feel excited because they're going to do some fitness and they're going to feel good. Right. And maybe they're a bit nervous sometimes, and then they come away feeling even better. And that for me, was really like, I loved seeing people going away feeling good. I loved knowing that I was a part of that and raising them up. Right. The reason I went for coaching is because that moves more towards that positive psychology approach, that goal-orientated approach and that future thinking and that motivation, because a lot of the environments I'd been in was all about how can I help move you forward as opposed to needing to unravel some of the past. And I think it's still important. I think having counselors and having psychologists, even having mentors who are more, who guide you more and tell you more about what to do. I think that is just as important. I think all those elements really support somebody, because even me, I've gone for counseling and I've had some challenges in the last couple of years myself. And, when I went to Japan, I'd just come from a very difficult time I'd been in.
And I think even that was important because looking at the past, you can learn where habits, behaviors have come from.
Yes.
You can learn about why maybe things are the way they are.
Yes.
And when you understand yourself, you can start to heal and take better steps forward. So I think that stuff is really good. I always encourage and say to people, if you can go for counseling or psychotherapy or anything, there's no harm in it. Even if you think you're fine, it's good to learn yourself and your past. But then moving forward is like the coaching bit, which is what I do. And I like that, seeing that motivating people and see people thrive and seeing people believe in themselves and beating imposter syndrome. I love that because that gives me energy as well. And I feel energized by that. And my ethos, my personal brand and my ethos is I want everyone to come up. We are all coming up together, not just I, not just you, it's we.
That's
and that's on it. And I'm trying to be honest about that because everybody is driven by certain careers slightly selfishly. And that's realistic, right? Why would you do something but then not enjoy doing it? It's only going to come across, disingenuine and unauthentic. So you've asked me the question, so I don't know if that's quite answered your question.
Answered it.
Yeah.
And what caught my interest about your answer is, it's so fast. So you mentioned that a lot of that psychiatry counseling work is very retrospective, like you're looking in the past to find answers, to get a better understanding. Whereas with you, it's about leveraging some of that, I'm sure, but very much proactive, moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think it's so fitting of your personality because you're very again, going back to the first brand that I got of you, there's a guy that's he's about action, he likes to get things done, he likes to do things. He's yeah, let's get things happening. And I feel like that's so fitting with your personality, which I want to take that back to, you said that growing up, you were one of the few, Pakistani British people in your community. Yeah. And I'll be honest, perhaps there's a bias of mine because I haven't met many Pakistani people, but you do have a very strong personality, it stands out.
Yep.
You wouldn't expect it when you first when I first came across you, I just didn't, you're very charismatic. And I'm curious, is that something that you were always just born with, or did you kind of develop it as a result of you trying to understand your own identity growing up in a culture that is just not reflecting people that look like you?
Yeah, a really good question. Just before I answer that, just to go back to something you said about doing and moving people, motivating towards, I think something I've learned more recently as well is, and especially from what we see in the grind culture, is my idea of doing and motivating doesn't have to be something grandiose. Sometimes doing and motivating and getting people to a place of where they feel success and happy and wellness might be sometimes going back to something they used to do, or doing something well, or just doing something peaceful. So I don't want to misinterpret this idea of, yes, I want to move people forward positively. It's moving people forward, but forward sometimes conjures up an image in people's minds that forward has to be, I've got to take big steps and I've got to be really ambitious. It's moving forward in what forward looks like to you. Forward could look like going down a slope into a nice little, cove, into somewhere that's peaceful and relaxing, or it can be moving up a mountain. So it's whatever forward looks like for you.
Right.
So, and that's what I've learned more about me is forward for me, even I was conflicted, actually, do I need to be chasing and working toward, or can I just be happy with the things I have whilst gently seeking new opportunities to enjoy life without needing millions and billions of pounds, which is, just a bit of a mindset I was in at one point where I was I need to grind to get more money. It's well, actually, can I just find happiness doing other things and move forward in a different way? Yep. So I just wanted to address that, just so there wasn't any misinterpretations. Yep. But yes, I'm definitely quite a motivational, quite a charismatic person in my own sense, as you've said. Now, in terms of where that came from when I was younger, I think it's been a lot of conditioning. I think it's been a mixture of my mum has had a very strong presence in my life, and my family on that side of the family has had a very strong presence.
Right.
And I think it's when I was younger, feeling like I had to kind of prove myself a little bit, and feeling like and you know what? It wasn't necessarily because people around me made me feel like I had to prove myself. I think I had a preconception. I thought because I look different than my friends or my peers, because I look different from the people in my school, because maybe they are good at certain things, like they're good at certain sports, or they're good at certain, whatever traits they have. I think I always had to feel that I wanted to provide something or give back. So for example, where maybe I lacked the ability in sport when I was young, because I was not good at sport at all. At one point I was very overweight as well. I wasn't very healthy. I wasn't looking after myself when I was younger. And I did loads of sport in high school. But when I wasn't good at sport, and when I wasn't good at those things, I thought, right, well, how can I contribute in other ways? And I wasn't always the smartest either. I really struggled with my maths and English, and my sisters were very intelligent. So I think where I tried to, and again, maybe this is something I need to think about a little bit more, but maybe I made up for it more in my personality. So I was like, well, how can I use different skills? So, or maybe in my people skills with my mother was a very strong character,
Yes.
very sociable, very outgoing, very chatty. And I was like, and because I inherited some of that, or I say inherited, because I developed some of that from watching and learning in the way that she interacts. I was like, oh, I'll use that. And that's one way of me making people feel good. I feel good in school. And I didn't necessarily fail or do very, very badly in other areas of school. I just felt it was a strength I could lean into. So I think my charisma has come from leaning into something that I could do well where I wasn't so good at other things. And I think it was also, I wanted to just fit in. I wanted to fit in and feel a part of a community. And people would feel a part of a community with sport or with this or with that. And I think I was extra conscious because I didn't want to feel outcast. I didn't want to feel separated from this Western community of white people where I was a brown Pakistani guy. So I was like, how can I fit in? So I'll use some kind of skill to fit in.
So you became a force of nature, essentially.
I just became like I became the kid in school or the kid in this who everybody knew and everyone got on with.
Yes.
And again, I'm not saying this in any kind of egotistical way to it's the truth. It's like people knew me. Like people knew me to talk to. I might not have been everybody's best friend, but let's say at the end of high school, I could talk to that group of social people or that group of social, and these would be people from, very different demographics and cliques. Yeah. So it would be, these guys are into, their tech and their IT, and these guys into their sport. Exactly that. And I am a bit of all of those things.
Yes.
I am into my anime. I am into my video games. I am into my sport. And it's a blessing and a curse sometimes because I've never been just an expert in one thing. And sometimes when you're an expert in one thing and you dedicate so many hours to it through research, it shows so many, like they say 10,000 hours or whatever you do, you become an expert. But I've always been like a jack of all trades. So sometimes I have to sit with myself and be like, it's okay to be a jack of all trades because you're still providing something for somebody somewhere, and you're still enjoying life and leaning into your strength, which is dabbling in different things, being able to do different things. Now, people skills is something you need everywhere, and I think that's why I've got into the coaching side of things, because coaching in what I do in relational psychology and motivational skills and presentation, all those things you need in a lot of different places. So I think okay, if I'm an expert in that, I'm then providing for those other elements of things that I'm interested in, like sport, career, even if you are, social communities. So all those places where I was like a jack of all trades, I'm able to provide something which is a bit of an expertise that everybody needs.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So very high EQ. And I'm curious, just for like the audience, because I feel like nowadays with a lot of young people, I do notice, because I'm in sales, which is very like people high IQ based as well. And something I noticed with some of the new people, the younger people entering their career or profession, and even on my day-to-day observations, is like I do feel like a group of young people, not all of them, but a group of them, for some reason lack social skills, and they're not able to be confidently approach a stranger, for example, and communicate with them, connect with people. So I'm curious, with your background and all your experience, kind of growing up and, like you said, developing that personality to provide value to your classmates and everything, to where you are now, what would be a key piece of advice that you'd give to someone from that demographic? Absolutely.
So I'm still coaching now. I coach new employees that come into a company, and I coach them on all kinds of skills. And one of the things we talk about is networking. And networking is where you have to use those people skills. And we also talk about emotional intelligence, and an element and a pillar of emotional intelligence is people skills, social skills. So what I would say, the main bit of advice is go into a conversation and just be curious without necessarily always needing an outcome. Because people put pressure on themselves. They think, right, if I go into a social situation and I need an outcome, I need to ask the right kind of things, or I need to talk about myself and let them know what I can do. And there's people go into conversations and they always feel like the pressure to have that conversation comes from needing something from it. Whereas actually, the irony is you get more from it when you just go in and let it emerge, like this is happening right now. So I always say, rather than trying to talk so much about yourself, or rather than trying to ask such specific questions, yes, sometimes it's important to do your research on people and networking in situations, but just go in and just have an open mind and ask someone what they do. It doesn't even have to be about their job. Just say, oh, what do you do? Or I'd love to learn a little bit more about you because I find you really interesting. So just go in with an open mind. And like you said, sometimes there's a bit of awkwardness or uncomfortableness because people lack the social skills, so they haven't even done that approach. Even to do the approach, the other bit of advice is, I'd say, you have to put yourself out there, and you just have to have those little conversations and have that exposure therapy. So it's almost like when people people talk about
like the ice bath kind of challenge. I know.
Okay,
some
yeah,
people, like,
yeah.
before they can fully throw themselves in that ice bath, they have to tiptoe into it, and they have to practice that every single day, one body part.
And then they get stronger and stronger
yeah,
at it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like exposure therapy, like you said.
Exactly. The other thing I was thinking about was the approach when you're single and you're trying to date, right?
Yes.
So a lot of what dating experts would advise is you have to just go and approach people and just have those little conversations or interactions just to build up the confidence to then take it that step further.
Right.
So the initial stages of someone who is maybe single and looking to date and wanting to have real life interactions would just be complimenting someone on how they look, or just a simple hello and an acknowledgement. And the more you do that, the more you build that social strength to then maybe take it that step further.
Right.
So it's the same in any kind of social situation. If you are awkward or you are uncomfortable and maybe you do lack those people skills, I think the first thing is gently taking those steps forward to have interactions, physical interactions with people, where you're making eye contact, because then only then will you get more comfortable with that person in front of you. The reason why you don't do it is because maybe you're scared. You're scared of how they might react. You're scared somebody doesn't want to talk to you. You're scared you're wasting someone's time. When you realize actually people quite like being talked to. People quite like human. We're an interconnected society where humans, don't survive just on their own. We're all survive together. So when you start to have those interactions, you become more comfortable with it because you can see in someone's eyes, how engaged they are. And you might get one or two people that aren't as interested or not, but the majority of the time, when you start to create more chances for you to have smaller interactions, you'll build up the confidence to then have natural conversations.
Right. Wow.
So I wouldn't say to somebody as advice, wanting to build on their people skills, to be rehearsed. I'd say go in and try and have small interactions, because then the natural interactions and the things you want to say naturally is where you'll thrive and where you'll strengthen those people skills.
So fascinating. It reminds me of a book by the guy, the philosopher, I think he is, Eckhart Tolle, where he talks about presence, being in the moment.
Yes.
And it seems like that's what you're kind of pushing for, like a version of just going there, no expectations, and just be in the moment, whatever comes to mind, just say it, and just see how it flows. Exactly.
Like some situations you can't rehearse as much as you want to try. You can, and maybe you can do it rehearsed, but if you have that conversation rehearsed, it will still fail because it will come across disingenuous, it will come across robotic, the other person won't build that rapport with you. If you sort of say the things you think and feel and you're genuinely interested, then that person will feel more rapport, you build more relationship with them. Not only that, you'll start to ask better questions. You'll ask better questions because as the conversation unravels naturally, you'll be really sparked and intrigued by something they've said, and the best questions will come to mind.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, so start with open questions, start with broad questions when you're getting to know someone. Narrow those questions down and get specific if there's certain things that interest you about them and you want to know more.
Interesting. And one thing as well, because you've been in the space for so long, I'm curious, because I've noticed some of the observations, which is what led me to asking you that question about, how could people be more social? Have you seen any changes or patterns in the audience that you typically work with, which I assume is young people? Like, have you noticed anything, or has it been relatively constant?
Yeah, I think there definitely has been a change in social skills and the ability to be social, 100%. And I mean, needn't I say it? I think we all know, right? It's all down to like social media, being screen time, not having to see people face to face, Teams meetings, and it's only a downward spiral when you aren't having those interactions and when you are only having meetings on Teams. And I get that like some people are in situations where they don't have much of a choice. Then your social skills get worse and worse and worse because even in a video, even on a video screen with somebody, there's only so many social cues or body language cues you can pick up on or facial expressions, because nothing is as real quality as your eyes in real life. So the quality of my eyes seeing you in ultra 4K HD, I can't get better cues from you. And also there's an aura in the room when you're with someone, there's an energy in the room, so you can really get a feel for somebody, or you can get a feel when something isn't right as well. Whereas on a screen, it's very much quite flat, quite 2D, quite robotic. Even though you know somebody's 3D, there's still that physical separation, and I think that's where we can lack in the social skills and picking up on social cues and even just feeling comfortable in a room with somebody. And I think that's the baseline. The baseline is being in a room and being comfortable with someone. And if you're uncomfortable, that's also good because you're getting a signal. But to get comfortable, we need to start bringing things into reality. And this is why a lot traveling. Going in the office or going and delivering sessions, this is where I thrive because I want to see people, and it's trying to encourage people to get up off their butts and just go and see people in real life, because you're going to enjoy life more. People are scared because it's effort, it's tiresome, and it's easy to be at home now. When we didn't have phones and we didn't have screens, you didn't really think about it. You just thought, I'm just going to go up and get someone because that's something to do, and I'm going to feel better. And you were forced into that situation, even if it was subconsciously, because you know I'm going to have a social interaction. I'm going to have fun. That's part of life. That's what we do. That's normal. Now it's more normal to be at home on your phone or on a screen and not go and do those things.
Facts. Yeah, that's so true. Because that's partly why I like doing like these kinds of podcasts, like where I get to meet people. Because my job, even though I do sales, a lot of it is doing online virtual meetings, and I rarely have to go to an office, which is a privilege. But also, like you mentioned, like life is about people and the
100%.
connections you make, the journeys you go on, and just feeling people's auras and energies. So completely agree with you on that. And so I wonder with you where you're at in your journey at the moment, because I've seen pictures of you, because I remember when I first started following you on Instagram, I saw pictures of you when you were like maybe it was like 6 years ago. I was so shocked because you were quite overweight back then. And I was like, this is not the Kaz that I remember seeing in person.
Yeah.
And then that led me to thinking, oh, this guy has like a backstory. There's more to him than just, he's always just been like a fit, like kind of jock build. So I'm curious, what is that story? Like, what motivated you to make that physique change to where you are now?
Yeah, exactly. I think fitness for me, it was, I mean, from if we're going back to high school, because I fluctuated, I've gone through different, you know, put weight on, taken weight off, so on and so on. I think if we're going back to where it first started was probably high school. And it was a case of bullying, like very subtle bullying. And it's funny because it was bullying within the peers. It wasn't actually people that, you know, I didn't hang around with. It was people that I hung around with. And within that, it was subtle things that they said. And you know what? I forgive them because some of those people I still talk to this day. Like I know them. Yeah, but like it was subtle things that they said, and it actually didn't realize how much it was upsetting me. And it really got to me. And you know, one day I just thought, okay, I thought, F it, I'm just gonna go and hang around with the popular guys and play football with them. And because of the confidence that I built and that charisma and the social skills, for me it was an easier transition to just be like, I'm just gonna go and play on the football pitch. Whereas some people wouldn't have ever been able to do that. So I just thought, I was still overweight, don't get me wrong, I was still like unhealthy. I started playing football with them because it was a case of the people that played football, it wasn't like they'd planned it and really organised it, you just jump in, you just play. And I knew that a couple of people there from my primary school would always be welcoming and let me play with them. There wouldn't be any judgment. I didn't think about what other people were doing. I'd chase the ball, I'd kick it, I wouldn't do very well. I'd then join the basketball team, I'd join the volleyball team. So I'm not gonna say it's any kind of unique, well I say unique, it's not unique, it's not fair to say for other people. I'm not gonna say it's any kind of original story because I know that other people have been through the same thing. It is one of those typical situations of, it was something that may have felt upsetting, and don't use the word traumatic because I don't feel like it was traumatic, but people might apply the word trauma to something like that, where it forces you to change. And it forced me to get sport, and doing sport and doing fitness only ever made me feel better. I only ever felt good. Rugby, football, and I was never the best. I was always just average at these sports. I even played American football for 7 years. Loved it. Basketball, I think I already mentioned. Volleyball, I really enjoy that just for good fun. And you know, I'll dip in and out of sport and play it for a bit of fun now. But it was only ever a situation of, I'm not happy with my weight and I want to look better and I want to feel better and I don't want to get bullied for it. So unfortunately, it was because of that I lost the weight. But then ever since keeping the weight off and, you know, feeling good about myself, feeling more capable to do things, for me, it was really important. So then, you know, like you said, you've seen some pictures from a few years ago. I think, you know, life takes over. People go through different circumstances, you know. I'll be honest, I was very comfortable in a relationship. It happened, something I was comfortable in a relationship, and I don't blame my partner at the time, I don't blame anybody. It was only me getting comfortable, maybe eating and snacking too much. And actually, what I found is, especially in the UK, because of the weather we have, sometimes we snack and eat more because we're bored. So I think fitness for me has always been one of those things. It's like, I want to keep doing it because I know that I feel good when I've come away from it. I know it helps me de-stress. I'm a very active and proactive person. My mind is always thinking. So that gym is that little break in between where, you know, I'm doing some weights or I'm doing some fitness, and it takes my mind away from it a little bit and helps reset me. And I think I've just built that habit to the point where it doesn't feel like I have to do it anymore. It's just automatic.
Got you. So it's almost like for you, gym, and I've heard this before, gym is like your kind of meditation. And I see this a lot with like these kinds of personalities that are ADHD, that just constantly thinking action. And then that physical work helps them come to peace.
De-stress,
One thing, however, that you mentioned was that, you know, you just joined all these clubs, American football, and you weren't caring what people were thinking. You just wanted to do it for fun. one thing that I've noticed with some friends of mine who were overweight is they initially were very scared about going to the gym because they were afraid of what other people were thinking of them.
Okay.
And sometimes I see it when I can tell when someone's new to the gym because they're typically like kind of paying attention to what everyone else is doing.
To see,
looking if they're making a mistake. So how do you get your kind of mindset where you just don't care, you just do it for fun, like you just do it regardless of what anyone...
Yeah, it's a good question. As soon as you said that, I thought of something that I've been teaching recently, which actually comes from a book by, I think it's Ray Dalio, and
Yes,
it's
Ray Dalio,
yeah. So have you heard of The Order of Consequence?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for me, it's always what is going to happen and how am I going to feel during and after I've done it.
Wow.
So because the first instant of any action can either be really, really detrimental or it can be slightly helpful. Usually it's more detrimental than it is helpful because we live as humans, we live in fear. We live in protect mode. We want to do things that protect us and keep us safe. So if we think of going to the gym, then we get a bit, and we've never been before, that's scary because it's something we haven't done, it's out of our comfort zone. If we are very, very hungry, we're living in fear of starvation, so we want a McDonald's, and that seems appealing, but that is the first consequence. That's the first instant of, oh, I'm gonna eat this thing and I'm gonna feel full, and then it's gonna satisfy that need and craving. But if we look at the second consequence, which is the after effects, and we look at the third consequence, which is the long-term effects, we're more likely to make better decisions.
Wow.
And be motivated. So, okay, so for example, oh, I really want to go on that holiday, but it costs so much money, and do I have the money to do that?
Yes.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But then maybe the second and third order of consequence will help you make that decision. I'm not saying to make that decision, but maybe if you think, well, actually, when I'm there, I have an amazing cultural experience. It's somewhere I've always wanted to go, and when I come back, at least I can say I've finally done it. I won't have any regrets, and I'll have got to see that thing in Japan that I wanted to see. I've got to see that thing in Mexico, and I might have made some friends because I went on a solo trip. Yeah. Now, how much more motivated do I feel, and how excited do I feel?
Way more motivated.
So whenever you're stuck in a position where you find that you are living in fear and you're not getting yourself to do things, try and put your mind a little bit further in the future about how that might feel. Try and visualize it, try and see how it feels, and take gentle steps. Don't go to the gym and think you have to learn every exercise. Just go and, it's fine if you watch a couple of people and you get a couple of ideas and you ask, and if you're not confident to ask the instructor, you're just looking around. Even walking, even if you've never been in the gym, even just walking and looking around the gym, even just going and looking around the gym because you're thinking of getting a membership, will put you in a position where you're more likely going to start going to the gym than if you just sit back and think, no, I'm too scared.
Wow.
Little steps if you need to. For example, like right now, I'm looking at houses.
Yes.
I'm trying to decide where I want to move because actually I'm thinking about two different cities. Now I could just sit there and be like, oh, I'm still indecisive and I don't know and it's a hard decision. But one of the small steps I've taken is, well, if I just go and do house viewings, even though I'm not 100% sure, my frame of mind will be, oh, I'm looking at houses now, I'm getting an idea. I am in that frame of mind that I am buying a house because I am viewing them. So I have to take that little step for myself is, go and view houses because then it will feel like you're buying your next home rather than just sitting at home and you're not doing anything active about it. Right. That might help you then get more clarity on your decision. So just take gentle steps about the things that you fear, about the things that you're scared of.
What I love about that is that it breaks the default mode of thinking, which is exactly, hey, I want to go to the gym, but I'm afraid. But you're saying, go further. Hey, I want to go to the gym, but I'm afraid because I might be embarrassed. But if I go there, I can start a completely new transformation process of being a different person.
Yeah, and it's as far as you need to go. And when you say go further, I guess you're right. But it doesn't even have to be that far forward. It could just be as far forward as, how are you going to feel after that hour of going to the gym?
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So it could be as far forward as, all right, and in 2 months, like you said, okay, so if you go further forward, you're then like, oh, I'm going to feel like this, I'm going to look like this in so many months. That in itself is great, but that can still be an achievement that feels far away. And sometimes our minds can go back to default and still think, oh yeah, but it's such a far away thing and it's going to take a lot of hard work. So even if you go as far forward as the next hour or the next day, that's enough. That's enough. With one foot in front of the other. People put so much pressure on themselves these days to think, I have to accomplish that thing on the top of the mountain, that high up. But getting that high up might take months and months and months, and you have to have patience. So to have the motivation in between the patience, you have to take one step at a time.
Wow. What you've just said, I've actually genuinely learned from exactly what you just said now, because I'm selling to different businesses, and one of the biggest obstacles that I have when I sell to businesses is this idea of transformation or change. Like, oh, if we buy this guy's software, it's going to change the business. And as you know from your coaching, I'm sure people are afraid of change because it could change it for the good, but you could change it for the worse. Some people might lose their jobs. It might be very expensive long term. Whereas I think if I could take an approach of when I'm selling, talking about, okay, don't think about the massive change, but think about like your day-to-day operations. Like if you get this, like how is this going to help you in terms of like when you wake up in the morning and you report to your manager the improvements that you've seen. Perhaps not exactly the example, but I think just focusing on the small steps can actually move the needle in a big way.
And the irony is focus on the small steps and keep that motivation there, because you're more likely going to get to that place you want to get to. Still look at the thing still look at the thing ahead of time.
Yes.
Still look at the thing you want in the future, but don't put all your energy there. Put your energy in what's happening in front of your feet as well. For example, one of the things I teach, we do a career development session as one of the coaching sessions that I do. So we do sessions on, like I said, emotional intelligence, branding, networking, conflict management, influence skills, resilience, growth mindset, and then career development is one of the last ones I'll do with a cohort of new employees. The career development one of the things I talk about is, and it's my personal sort of model that I provide as my personal idea, is saying try and be driven by a vision, because in this day and age, it's very hard to be driven by a job title, because job titles are changing constantly and job titles require you to do 10 different things. In fact, when you read a job title, if you apply, I'll say this to anybody, if you apply for a job on LinkedIn or anywhere, read the description very carefully. Don't be put off by the title, because you'd be very surprised. You might find something in that job description that really appeals to you that you didn't think was going to be there, because the job titles these days are so ambiguous.
Yes.
So I would say to people like, oh, they want to be a CEO, they want to be this, they want to be that, or they're not sure. Either way is fine. If you're not sure, great. If you are sure, great. But have a vision of what you want your life to look like. Because if you have a vision of what you want your life to look like in the future, if you close your eyes and really visualize, okay, so I want to live here, or I want to be traveling a lot, or I want a family, or I want to be on my own, or I want to have this much finance, or I want to have this much time and freedom, depending on what that is, that vision will be great for you to be driven by. That vision will inform the things you need to do in the short term. So when we talk about those small steps will be tangible and specific. They'll be, I need to get more qualifications, I need to network more, I need to get more visibility. Whatever those small things are should move you towards your vision.
Wow.
So for example, if my vision is, I can imagine me stood on a stage presenting to thousands of people. Oh, okay, so what do I need to be doing now? I need to be doing more opportunities where I'm going and doing talks to people during their lunchtime, or going to little departments and doing little free sessions. And so take little steps, be motivated by the little steps in front of you. If you want to have a vision or you want to have a big goal, use that as a vision, but make sure you're dividing and dispersing your energy between what my goal is and what I need to do right now, so that I'm staying motivated and moving forward in the process.
Perfect.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And one thing I want to kind of end this on, because I don't know how much battery power is left. One thing that I really appreciate about your approach and mentality is success. You define success as whatever an individual person defines as success.
Yes.
Which I think is especially important nowadays when you go on Instagram and you see all these people with the Lamborghinis, with the Ferraris, the typical highlight reel. What advice from that perspective would you give to someone, let's say a young 23-year-old that's about to graduate, and they have these big audacious goals, but at the same time they feel like it's not really for them?
Really good question. Success sometimes is hard for us to choose, because sometimes we have to try and find things in the media, or try and find things to help us define what our success is, because we don't even know what it is. And that's why people chase all these dreams, because they're like, oh, all right, if I do that, I'll feel successful, because that looks good. It looks good, but what feels good? So I always say, to find your success, it might be tricky and it might change. You go through life and you want different things. Success might change. Success might go from, I want this amount of money, to I want this family. All I'd say is, in order to find success, my advice is move towards things that always help you feel good, or feel fulfilled, or feel well. You're not going to feel good 100% of the time. Things aren't always going to be perfect in life, but try and do the things that make you feel good majority of the time, or more often than not. The things that make you feel full, the things that make you feel well, the things that raise you up, the things that make you lose track of time, the things that put you in flow state. So you can look back on your life and say, you know what, I lived life in a beautiful way. I was giving, but I was receiving, and I just enjoyed it. I think so again, I guess to summarize, if I was to say to anybody young, how can you define what success is to you? Keep moving towards things that help you feeling good. have a bit of a strategy, have a bit of an idea, be proactive, because I'll be honest, I think I was a little bit random in my career. I was a bit zigzaggy, I didn't really have a clear idea. Have some idea, have that idea created by a vision of what you might like or what feels good when you close your eyes, based on past experience, based on things you're learning about, and then keep moving towards those things and make sure that those interactions that you have or those things you get involved in are helping you feel good. And anything that feels uncomfortable, don't fool yourself. Don't think, well, but if I keep doing it, I'm going to get loads of money. Some things are going to feel uncomfortable. Yes, push yourself out your comfort zone. Yes, do things that are slightly uncomfortable. But anything that feels continuously uncomfortable and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse, reassess it, check it and say, okay, is this going to make me feel really good more often than not, a majority of the time? Yeah. So push yourself out your comfort zone, move towards things that feel good, get a sense for what maybe might not be for you, and be honest about that and be honest with yourself. Amazing. It's tricky. It's not easy. It's not easy finding your way in life, and that's one thing about me being a coach is I always say I'm an honest coach. Like I take a very honest / positive approach in my coaching. And the honest / positive approach is there's no right and wrong. And success can change and feelings can change. But if you can look back, for me, success is, can you look back on your life and say you did all the things you said you wanted to do? And you feel good for it, and you try to right your wrongs, and you try to learn and be a better person. Can you look back on for me, up to now, I can look back on my life and say I've had some amazing experiences. I've made just as many mistakes. I try to do my best to rectify those mistakes and do right by what I've done wrong. But I can look back and say I have lived, and I'm still only in my 30s, mid 30s, just above my mid 30s.
So a young man.
But I can still look back and say, you know what, I did all the things I wanted to do, and I've enjoyed it. And where I'm at now, I'm not a billionaire, but I'm also not completely struggling either. I'm very fortunate for where I'm at. I'm fine. I am well, and I've done a lot, and I'll continue to try and do more, and I'll continue trying to figure out what feels good because I'm still trying to figure things out. Success is how you define it. Try and be true and honest with yourself as you go through that journey. Try and move towards things that feel good. Push yourself out your comfort zone a bit as well, where you need to.
Love that. And on that note, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed this.
Likewise.
Cheers. Thank you.